Today we jump into the fascinating journey that the KuneKune took aboard the whaling ships headed to New Zealand before they became the very picture of what Walt Disney always depicted pigs to look like in his stories. They had an incredibly eventful first century in their existence, and they very nearly didn't make it to see their next 100 years in the world. But the round and small oinkers managed to pull at one very special human's heartstrings, and that one man was so smitten with them and the predicament they were in that he made it his mission to bring them back from the brink of extinction. Let's jump right into the remarkable journey that the KuneKune took to become what they are today. Due to the lack of documentation and the organic way that the KuneKune evolved into the shape it has today, we have to rely on the stories of the Maori people of New Zealand and the theories from historians and those who have dedicated most of their lives to KuneKune preservation. With the words of these wise men, we can make some informed deduction. In the late 18th century, whaling ships were still faring across the seas. It's the valuable whale blubber that gave Australia and New Zealand their first real taste of international trade and the opportunity to grow their economy. Their ports were an invaluable stopping point to offload, process, and trade the whales that they brought in from the ocean. The Maori people were never eager to adopt foreign ways, and they rarely explored the animals, food, or cultures that came upon their shores. The Maori are a proud people, and they've always gone to great lengths to preserve their heritage. But one little piggy that came with a ship stole their warrior hearts. And it's not just because they were cute. The KuneKune were adaptable, and their small size was ideal to manage on a small scale. Given their size and appearance, it's most likely that they came from Asia, probably China, aboard one of the whaling ships. It's possible that KuneKunes were once a domesticated breed there, but due to their small size, they were probably not big enough to feed the larger populations of Asia. So they never had any remarkable numbers or enough interest to validate any documentation and intensive breeding. Or they were related to a smaller breed like the potbellies or something similar. Maybe they were a combination of smaller breeds that were bred with one another. No one can say for sure. But the Maori took the KuneKune and they just thrived. KuneKunes are unique in their ability to forage entirely on just grass if they have to, and they can do so and still be perfectly healthy. They were cheap, naturally social toward humans, and they were capable of taking care of themselves without too many pens and restraints placed around them. The Maori called them KuneKune because that means small and round in the Maori language. For the next few years, the KuneKune lived and multiplied under Maori care. They became ingrained in New Zealand culture and cuisine. But somewhere between 1900 and 1980, the little pigs were starting to fade out, and no one even noticed. Besides a few Maori households that kept them, no other New Zealanders had any interest in them. Animal farming in New Zealand was mainly focused on sheep, maybe a few goats and cows, but never really pigs on a large scale. That's where John Simister comes in. In 1978, a friend told him of these small pigs, and John was curious enough to seek them out at a zoo nearby. He immediately fell in love with the squashed-faced little pigs. He asked around to find out where he could buy a few to keep as pets for himself, and was shocked to find that no one could tell him where he could find them. Besides the old sow and boar kept at the zoo, there just weren't any people who actually had any. Everyone remembered seeing them when they were younger, but no one could recall any current owners. So John and his friend Michael Willis got into a car and drove from the East Coast to the West Coast. They stopped at every Maori household and smallholding they could find, looking for the KuneKune. After almost 2 weeks, they managed to find a handful. It's thought that there were less than 50 pure KuneKunes left in New Zealand by that time. John bought every pig that was up for sale and arranged for some intensive breeding for the rest that he could not buy. And so it began. With only a few examples and even fewer black and white photos to work from, John began to breed them, and if he didn't keep them, he found homes for them. Between John and Michael Willis, they brought their numbers up from the meager 50 pigs to thousands of KuneKunes running around New Zealand and right across the world today. In the modern world, KuneKunes had a place in Maori culture on homesteads and hobby farms, and their size made them very attractive to keep as pets. Though they are still technically considered a rare breed, it won't be long before they fall off that list. Their numbers have grown exponentially in the past 40 years, with no signs of slowing down. Kunes are very much a small-scale farming swine, and their natural foraging capabilities and remarkable social natures are better suited for regular human interaction. So let's start with their appearance and then move on to the pros and cons. Standing only 24 inches tall, the KuneKune has short legs that are just enough to keep their bellies off the ground. Their hair is usually short, but they have more of it than other hogs do. They'll grow a little extra when the weather turns cold, and you can find quite a bit of variation with their coats. There is no specific length. Sometimes it's short and bristly, and sometimes it comes out longer and curly. Brown, black, ginger, cream, gold, or spotted, Kunes come in a wide range of colors and markings, but their short, upturned snouts and upright ears are their trademark. You just can't miss them. Their general health, hardiness, and foraging capabilities lend to the theory that there must have been some feral pig breeding involved in their early history. Their sociability makes them seek out human interaction, and they can become very attached to their human handlers and the other animals that they are kept with. Quiet, gentle, and affectionate, you'll love having them around for company just as much as you'll appreciate them for their easy care. But it's their intelligence that sets them apart. We know pigs are some of the smartest animals in the world, right up there with chimpanzees and dogs. Heck, you can even train pigs to assist people just like guide dogs. But KuneKunes ranked as one of the smartest pig breeds in the world when they were subjected to testing and problem solving. They are much cheaper to keep than other pigs, since they can be perfectly capable of foraging for all of their own food if you have even just a little space to allow them to. With the additional kitchen scrap of fruits and vegetables, they'll be perfectly content and healthy. If they are left to forage entirely for their own feed, they'll mainly rely on grasses then. But that extra produce just gives them that little extra nutrition, and you'll have a healthier pig for very little effort or spending on your part. They eat a little less than other pigs their size, but that could just be because they are so good at feeding themselves. But if you do have them on bagged feed, look for a protein percentage of at least 12%. Anything less, and you'll start seeing some weight loss and health issues. They typically take 12 months to grow from birth to slaughter, everything after that, and they'll put on mostly fat, reducing the amount of meat you'll get from them. They are an excellent lard pig, producing very clear and pure lard. But you still want to get a decent amount of their dark and deeply marbled meat, so they should really be slaughtered at the right time if you're keeping them for that purpose. They are the smallest of all of the domesticated pigs. Their height is pretty standard, but their weight can fluctuate anywhere between 60 kilograms on the low end all the way to 200 kilograms on the heftier side, depending on how long you allow them to grow out for. Sows usually give birth to 6 to 12 piglets at a time, making them a little more manageable for smaller operations. And sows make excellent mothers with very few piglet deaths and post-birth complications. The most obvious advantage is the Kune's size and the fact that they need less feed and care from you to meet their nutritional needs. Their smaller snouts make feeders and waterers perfect for them. Rubber bowls, kiddie pools, and regular plastic containers all work just fine. You don't need large troughs to feed them, since their snouts can fit into smaller containers, and they aren't likely to shove and trample younger pigs out of the way to get to their food. That's not to say that they can't get excited about food. They are pigs after all, but a few containers that are spread out a little will solve that problem for you. Kunes aren't prone to rooting. That's not to say they won't, but it's minimal. If they have enough growing topside of the soil, they'll keep themselves fed only from that, and only dig when it's warm, and they want to get to some moist ground to cool off. They aren't likely to break out of their holdings unless they are not socialized properly or if a female is in heat. Quite frankly, Kunes are just too lazy to bother with the effort of finding ways to get out of their enclosures, and they actually like the pigs that they're with, so they'd rather not get separated from their company. Keeping pigs usually requires a lot of maintenance to repair the damage they can cause to their pens, but this is not the case with KuneKunes. Their slow growth rate, small size, docile temperaments, and minimal health problems are perfect for new pig owners to take their time to adapt to taking care of larger animals. They are the ideal livestock to get when you're just stepping into the space of rearing animals. When it comes to slaughter, you can expect to get a higher price for their meat and lard, since both products from the KuneKune are at the higher end of quality when it comes to market value. And finally, they make excellent pets. They're smaller than any other pig, and they are smart, sweet, and calm. They can be trained to listen to basic commands, and they just adore scratches and attention. And even if they are being kept as production animals, they are a fantastic pig when you have children who are learning to care for their livestock. KuneKunes are still strong animals, so you'll still have to keep an eye on their younger human charges. But there isn't a safer pig to tend to than the Kunes. KuneKunes are not large-scale farming animals. They are just too slow-growing and small in size to expect anything more from them than filling the freezer and maybe making a supplementary income from the excess meat and lard you get from them. The low cost of keeping them and their friendly demeanors offsets this slow growth rate somewhat. But if you're looking to produce a lot in a short amount of time, well, the KuneKune won't be for you. And many have found that their incredibly sweet natures have a habit of finding a place in their owners' hearts, making it difficult to slaughter them when the time comes. Yes, they are productive animals and cost-effective, but be careful not to get too attached to the animal that you intend to raise for meat. Given that they are still rare to find, they can be expensive. It helps to find unregistered coonies, which will save you hundreds of dollars. Keep the purebred and registered pigs you have only for breeding purposes. Whatever you decide to slaughter, save yourself the money and don't go to the lengths to register those hogs. They won't be too expensive for that much longer, though. Their numbers are climbing by the thousands every year. You'll also need to keep a strict schedule when it comes to processing your pigs. If they are grown out for more than a year, 18 months at most, they won't be worth much more than lard. Every gain after a year is made up of fat, and you can already get so much lard from them at the proper processing time that it wouldn't make sense to grow them for longer than they need to. Crush rails will be needed for farrowing sows. They are very good mothers, but every pig, no matter what the breed, likes to lean on something when she gives birth, and this can often lead to some unlucky piglets being crushed beneath her. She might also accidentally lay on them when she settles down to feed them, or when it's time for her to go to sleep. After about 3 weeks, the mother will need to be separated from her piglets for a few hours every day. A lot of pig breeds appreciate the break from their babies after a few weeks, but it's also about getting her some social interaction. KuneKunes just need companionship, and when sows are separated to keep their piglets safe, they will become lonely, and that is about the only time you'll ever see aggression from this breed, because she'll break down enclosures to get to her friend. Letting her out for 2 hours is more than enough, and she'll happily return to her offspring without any prompting from you. Piglets shouldn't be put with the rest of the pen until they are at least 6 weeks old, 8 weeks if you can. They don't handle stress very well and can develop lameness in their back legs or stop eating and drinking because of it. So keep their surroundings calm and stress-free for the first 2 months. And speaking of companionship, don't keep any less than 3 KuneKunes at a time. They need others of their kind. Loneliness will cause boredom, aggression, and in some cases, they'll even lose interest in food and start to lose weight. When you do keep them as pets, their intelligence is their biggest asset, but it can also be the reason that they become unmanageable. But if you get too comfortable with your KuneKune and spoil them too much, they can get feisty and cheeky. They'll bite and push to get at treats, and they get very accustomed to routines. If you vary even slightly from their feeding schedule or hand out too many treats, they just won't understand why their human isn't keeping with the normal schedule, and they'll definitely try to put you in your place. Furthermore, coonies are susceptible to the usual swine diseases like parasites, foot and mouth disease, respiratory diseases, PRRS, and swine erysipelas. They are no more likely than other pig breeds to catch anything in particular, and they still fall under the hardier and healthier pigs you can keep. All in all, the KuneKune pigs are the smallest, cutest, and friendliest pigs that you could ask for. They'll fit right in on any small holding, and they'll make the transition to livestock rearing so much easier and cheaper for new farmers. And even if they aren't big market pigs, that doesn't mean that they can't keep your food storages filled up with plenty of meat and lard. Your homestead will be so much richer with them on it, and if you're just looking for an unusual pet, KuneKunes are trainable. They love receiving and giving attention, and they come with just so much more personality than almost any other farm animal. Are you interested in getting some of these little piggies for yourself? If you are, will they be a production animal, or would you rather like to keep them as pets? Let us know in the comments below. And you know the drill, like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel and all of the people putting in their time to bring you all of the facts about the livestock breeds that are just waiting for a place on your property. See you next time. Bye.